Pokémon has a few long-running things that show up weirdly often in the franchise, and sometimes that's just 2 or 3 times, but it is still interesting. We have talked about how flutes have been used and why. We have talked about why we mostly have no present fathers in Pokémon games, and today we talk about professors. So hey, I'm Not So Ace Trainer, and why are professors named after trees? Let's get into it. Before we begin, I want to thank my YouTube member Dash Plays and my Twitch subscribers Anubis here, Redsamnagi, Zanes222, Nightshades and Lazarix. Thank you so much for going the extra mile and helping make my content possible. And now, onto the video. While some things change over the years, others really do stay the same. One of those is how we always had a Pokémon Professor starting off our journey. Well, almost always. Gen 9 had a different kind of professor, 2 of them actually, and they play a very different role in our adventure. That is not all that changed with Gen 9 when it comes to professors. Every other professor before Professor Sada and Professor Turo shared a very specific trait from Kanto to Galar and even Hisui. Every professor before them was named after a tree, except for Professor Laventon. He was named after a plant, but it still kind of fits the whole thing. Not a single one of them missed. Like you shouldn't miss the like and subscribe button, of course. They didn't even try to stylize the name for the most part. Only in Professor Laventon's case did they do it, as the professor's name comes from lavender, which is not technically a tree, it is actually a semi-shrub, but still close enough. Professor Oak's name came from the oak tree. Professor Elm's name came from the elm tree. Professor Birch's name came from the birch tree, Professor Rowan's name from the rowan tree, Professor Juniper's name from the juniper tree, Professor Sycamore's name from the sycamore tree, Professor Kukui's name from the kukui or candlenut tree, and Professor Magnolia's name from the magnolia tree. We also have, of course, Professor Sonia, as she is a professor when we say goodbye to Galar, whose name might come from Sandersonia or Parkinsonia. Sorry about mentioning each and every one of them individually, but I kinda wanted an excuse to put the professor and the tree at the same time on screen. But with Professor Sada getting her name from pasado or passado, the Portuguese or Spanish word for past, and Professor Turo getting his name from futuro, the Portuguese and Spanish word for future, they kinda broke the trend. But why did it exist in the first place? Well, the best way to do this is to look at the odd ones out. Our relationship with Sada and Turo was very different from what we were used to with other professors. We did not get our starter Pokemon from them, and they didn't really do anything to help us during our journey. Their goal was to have the Koraidon or Miraidon ready to go in order to take the book down the Great Crater of Paldea and put an end to what was going on in Area 0. It was never about us. It was never about us growing. In every other game, the professor's presence is maybe less felt, as the AI keeps calling us, but it comes from a place of counseling, a place of care. And that's exactly where the tree name comes from. It is a recurrent theme in media. You've seen it with Grandmother Willow in Pocahontas, and you've seen it with Treebeard from Lord of the Rings. And in the Nintendo side of things, who can forget the Great Deku Tree from the Legend of Zelda series? There are more examples, but trees in media usually represent ancient wisdom or ancient power. And that's what most of the professors represent as well. They were the wisdom that was being passed to young trainers, the older generation giving way to the new. This was a very easy thing to see in Sword and Shield, a game that is basically about passing the torch, not only on the professor's side, like Magnolia to Sonia, but also in other aspects, down to the dev team. This is also why a lot of other characters are usually named after fruits or flowers. They can eventually grow into something else. The wisdom from the trees is passed down to its seeds, its flowers and its fruit, and they, at that moment, have the potential to become more themselves. They are the next generation, the ones who will reshape a world that was shaped by the older generation. A world that was shaped by the trees. And that is all I have for you today. Why professors are usually named after trees. But what about you? What's your favorite Pokemon professor? Let me know in the comments down below. And now, like the video if you like it, dislike if you don't, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more Pokemon content, and also ring the bell so you know when the next video is out. Also, you can become a channel member or check out my merch in order to further support the channel. I'd be forever thankful for that. You can follow me on social media or check out one of my streams here on Twitch. All the links are in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.